The anime begins with a group of children dreaming of becoming heroes when they grow up. Their ambition is to become treasure hunters, traveling the world to explore treasure vaults in pursuit of wealth, glory, and ultimately, the title of the greatest heroes. They all aim to reach the imperial capital, Zerbrudia, one day. Later, we meet Cray, a young man walking alone in the rain. It's revealed that treasure hunters are seen as heroes in the imperial capital. These hunters venture into dangerous ruins, known as treasure vaults, to collect hidden artifacts. Treasure hunting is a perilous job where hunters face monsters called phantoms, but in return, they can achieve great wealth and fame. One of the most skilled clans in the capital, First Steps, is holding interviews for new members at a tavern. A clan is described as a group of parties that support each other because a hunter can only accomplish so much alone. To reach higher goals, hunters must join a strong party to grow with their comrades. Cray, unfortunately, hasn't succeeded in joining one yet. When he arrives at the tavern hoping to join a party, a girl named Rhoda approaches him. Rhoda introduces herself, mentioning that she recently reached level 3. Cray introduces himself in return. Rhoda explains that she has been working solo, but struggled with a treasure vault called the White Wolf's Den. A nearby patron named Greg overhears her and mocks her for attempting such a dangerous vault at level 3, calling her an amateur. Rhoda, upset at being called an amateur, becomes even angrier when Greg tells her that level 3 is considered average elsewhere, meaning she's basically a beginner. He advises her to go home before she gets hurt. Furious, Rhoda draws her sword to attack him. Just then, a guard intervenes, warning them that any more disturbances will cost them their chance of joining the clan. Afterward, Cray and Rhoda enter the tavern, where Rhoda is amazed by the number of hunters, having never been in such a place before. Cray, on the other hand, tells her it's his 5th time visiting. Cray reflects that in the world of hunters, skill is everything. Those with talent can rise quickly and make a name for themselves, while those without talent must take whatever opportunity comes their way. Rhoda asks about the party, and Cray explains that the party conducting the interviews is Brave Arc, the strongest in the capital. Brave Arc once completed a level 7 treasure vault with only 6 members, cementing their elite status. Cray points out their leader, Arc Rodan, sitting at a table. He also mentions that Brave Arc has never accepted new members through these events, as far as he knows. When Rhoda asks about an office in the back, Cray doesn't respond. Greg explains that it belongs to the original founders of the First Steps clan. This group is called the Hazani, a title given to a young group who arrived in the capital a few years ago. Their talent allowed them to become one of the top parties in the city. Their full name is the Sad Souls, and they are Cray's childhood friends. The large turnout for this event is due to the Hazani accepting new members for the first time. Soon, an adventurer named Gilbert arrives, hoping to join the Hazani. He boasts about being level 4 and claims he doesn't have time for weaklings, saying he came because he heard the best were gathering and intends to be one of the strongest hunters. A girl named Tino stops him, telling him to know his place. Despite the vice president's warning to avoid conflict, Tino insists that she deserves to join the Sad Souls, angering Gilbert, who challenges her to a duel. Concerned, Cray urges Rhoda to leave, fearing they might get caught in the conflict. Just as they prepare to leave, Tino rushes toward them to stop him. At that moment, Arc appears and welcomes Cray, stating that nothing would have been accomplished without him, as he is the clan master and leader of the Sad Souls. This revelation surprises everyone. Years ago, when Cray and his childhood friends arrived in the capital, they quickly completed beginner treasure vaults and defeated monsters. They all chased the dream of becoming treasure hunters together. However, Cray felt ordinary compared to his exceptionally talented friends, leading him to decide to leave the party. But instead of letting him go, his friends asked him to lead them, recognizing his talent for leadership and his unique skills. Cray was initially shocked when his childhood friends asked him to become their leader, as he had always wanted to retire from being a hunter. However, he eventually accepted the role, despite his reluctance. In the present, everyone is surprised to learn that Cray is the master of the First Steps clan. During a conversation with Ark, Tino warns Ark to stay away from Cray, saying his arrogance is contagious. Ark mocks Tino, finding her amusing and accusing her of spying on the crowd while pretending to be a commoner. Cray admits he didn't have time to prepare, and Ark teases him for not wearing the formal outfit they were all supposed to wear. Cray responds that hunters never listen to him, so Ark isn't the only one at fault. Tino, upset with Cray, suggests removing him from the clan list for his disrespectful attitude. Cray explains that Tino is an independent hunter affiliated with the Steps, trained by one of his childhood friends. Ark then mentions he has found a promising new candidate. Despite Cray insisting they already have enough members, Ark insists that he has found someone worth considering. Cray agrees to trust Ark's judgment. Tino, however, declares that while it's an honor to be chosen, she has already decided to join Cray and isn't interested in joining anyone else's party. At that moment, Gilbert appears, arrogantly stating that if Cray wants him so badly, he might consider joining. Cray questions why Gilbert, a level 4 hunter, isn't affiliated with any party. Gilbert responds that he wields the Sword of Torment, but Cray points out that the weapon won't make him a strong addition right away, though with training from Ark and others, that could change. Cray admits that he isn't great at judging people and tends to rely on luck when choosing members. He then makes a deal with Gilbert, saying he will recommend him to Ark, but only if he proves his ability not to lose. When asked what the most important quality in a hunter is, Cray explains that not losing is crucial because lack of strength would put the party at risk. Gilbert, confidently, declares that he has never lost since becoming a hunter, shocking everyone. Cray privately doubts that Gilbert has faced a real battle yet. To test him, Cray removes a ring from his finger and offers it as a challenge. Whoever retrieves the artifact will be recommended to Ark. He throws the ring, and while Tino immediately attacks Gilbert, she cannot find the ring. Cray reveals that the ring is an artifact, and whoever finds it will be allowed to keep it. The next morning, Cray receives news of a massive brawl that took place during Ark the Brave's recruitment event, which ended with the venue being blown up. Luckily, there were no injuries, but the Association of Explorers wants to speak with Cray about the incident. Ark finds the situation amusing, while Cray instructs Eva to bill Ark for the tavern's repairs and make sure Ark attends the meeting with the Association. Eva points out that Cray relies too much on Ark and that the Association specifically requested his presence. Cray, knowing the branch manager Garak, declines to go, predicting that Garak will come to him instead. He also mentions that his stealth tool, a mask allowing him to disguise himself, is broken, making it inconvenient to leave without guards. Despite his reluctance, Cray decides to meet with Garak. At the mansion, Cray apologizes to Garak for the chaos, explaining that the damage was only material and that no civilians were harmed. He adds that the tavern owner understands the situation. Kina, another character, tries to calm Cray down and asks Garak not to be too harsh. She hands Cray a book. Garak insists that even without formal complaints, a prominent clan like First Steps must set a good example for other hunters, and letting them get away with this behavior wouldn't be right. Cray explains that the Association of Explorers, or Guild, assigns jobs to hunters, some of which are poorly paid, have tight deadlines, and are extremely difficult. These are often referred to as routine work, and Cray struggles to find anyone willing to take them. Kina jokes that Cray's talent for provoking others has reached new levels. Cray responds by selecting an easy task and assigning it to Ark. Eventually, he finds a rescue mission, which he emphasizes should be taken seriously. Cray goes to find Ark, But Tino informs him that Ark has been summoned by nobles and will be away for a while. She shows Cray the ring, stating that she didn't want anyone else to touch it. Cray, surprised, mentions that he received a mission from the Association of Explorers, but accidentally drops the paper. Later, Cray is seen chaining Tino, expressing his deep disappointment, saying it was the biggest shock of his life. He never imagined she would do something so awful. Tino defends herself, explaining that she didn't deceive him and had no intention of using cheap tricks. She simply wanted to go out for ice cream. Instead, Cray forced her into this tough routine work, which offers minimal compensation and has a long contract. Tino, still at level 4, argues that there's no way she can save 5 people alone. She acknowledges that Cray sends them on dangerous missions to make them stronger, but pleads with him not to overdo it with the harsh training. Cray responds by asking if she doesn't want to go alone, then reveals that the mission is in the White Wolf's den. 6 years ago, the most powerful clan in the region, which didn't even have a name yet, arrived at the Adventurers Association to register their group. Cray, as usual, tried to stop the team from moving forward and didn't even want to enter. He believed he would hold them back, but his friends insisted that he be their leader. There was no turning back now. Since Cray was being difficult, the boldest member of the group kicked open the door and marched into the association, introducing himself as Luke Sickle, the best swordsman in the world. Beside him, Liz Smart told him not to hog the spotlight and introduced herself as the most powerful blade in the universe. Luke explained to a staff member that he was amazing because, as Cray always said, the truly strong don't choose their weapon. Since Luke used a wooden sword, it proved he was the most dangerous. Cray, feeling embarrassed, just wished Luke would stop mentioning him. The receptionist handed Cray a form, explaining that a team's name represents its spirit. The group hadn't thought about it. So Cray saw this as a chance to pick a terrible name and get out of being their leader. He drew a strange skull and called the team Strange Grief. Everyone hated the name, but just when Cray was about to step down, his friends decided to keep it, calling it Genius. That's how the Strange Clan was born. In the present day, Greg is shocked to learn that the lifeless-looking kid is actually the master of the Pegasus clan. Cray Andry reflects that the title Pegasus was the second name he earned as the leader of Strange. Famous treasure hunters often get special names and become idols, despite everyone's insistence. Gilbert Bush refuses to believe that Cray is anything special. So Tino, who dislikes Cray, complains to the boss, saying there's no way she can work with this fake swordsman. Cray himself admits he's the biggest fraud in Zebrodia and far from the strongest in the capital, despite what people say because his clanmates always talk him up. Cray asks if the guests are ready for the mission, and Gilbert mocks him, saying it's an insult for someone like Cray to be ranked at level 8. Greg warns Gilbert he's picking a fight with the wrong person, but Gilbert doesn't care. Cray, uninterested in the mission, kicks Gilbert off the team. Gilbert, furious, expects Cray to beg for his approval, but Cray doesn't care. Instead, he asks Tino if she needs anything. She says she does need the master, but Cray tells her that's not happening. With everything settled, Cray turns to leave, but Gilbert challenges the 1,000 tricks, saying if he loses, he'll join the group. Cray says Tino Shade is the leader, so she'll be the one fighting. Tino confidently says she'll deliver divine punishment using the incredible range she developed through training. Gilbert, feeling cocky, promises not to hold back and challenges Cray again once he beats Tino. Cray, not wanting to fight, thinks Tino should be able to handle Gilbert. However, he worries about Gilbert's sword, the Blade of Purgatory, which might tip the fight in his favor. But then Gilbert drops his weapon, mirroring Tino's move. Tino, eager for ice cream, says she'll destroy him and then get a treat with Cray, who reluctantly agrees just to keep the peace. Motivated, Tino charges at Gilbert with surprising speed. Gilbert dodges her first strike, but she sweeps his legs, knocking him down. Determined, Gilbert doesn't give up and fights back, but Tino easily dodges him and mocks him for challenging her master. Just when everyone thought he was beaten, Gilbert remembers his past and how he was born to be a hunter. As a child, he was talented in swordsmanship and grew up believing he was invincible. Now, back in the present, Tino warns him that if he wants to survive, he'd better use his sword. Gilbert refuses to use his sword, but Tino warns him that pride means nothing when you're dead. Whether he likes it or not, he agrees to use it, though inside he can't stand the thought of being weaker than her. Cry steps in and tells Gilbert that, just like how he left his last group because of the strength gap, Cry went through the same thing. However, in Cry's case, no one left him behind, and they didn't let him stay behind, no matter how much he wanted to. Cry leaves that part unsaid. Gilbert is surprised to realize that Cry, the leader of the most feared clan in the capital, is kind. He starts seeing Cry as something more than a person. Meanwhile, Andri touches Gilbert's sword, noticing its elemental damage and extended attack range. He comments that it's a simple but good weapon and advises Gilbert to take care of it. Gilbert realizes that Andri uses the sword far better than he ever could, despite having owned it for years. In disbelief, Gilbert yells that this is impossible and calls Cry a monster. Cry then explains that monomaterial is considered the fundamental substance of the world. Even though it's everywhere, it's invisible to the naked eye. Treasure vaults form when spiritual forces condense monomaterial, creating limited alternate worlds based on memories from the world's core. These vaults, like the White Wolf's Nest, are studied by many kingdoms, but the rules aren't fully understood. The White Wolf's Nest was once home to wolf, like monsters called Silver Moon, which were hunted to extinction. Afterward, a treasure vault appeared with a ghostly wolf haunting it. After reading this in the newspaper, a young man gets nervous, saying that a treasure vault based on vengeance seems too big of a challenge. Ivor Renfield blames Cry for putting them in this situation, but trusts that the team can handle it since the vault is only level 3, and they have 4 members, including Tino. The boy thanks Ivor for telling him about Gilbert leaving his group, as he used that information at just the right moment. The clan's vice master mentions that Cry put on quite a show with a relic in the training room. Cry says it was easy to control, especially since even Gilbert could use it a little without much knowledge. Cry enjoys collecting relics of all kinds, and even asks if Gilbert would sell the Purgatory Blade. Eva loses her patience, pointing out that Cry already has several relics and even took out a loan from Sidri due to his debts. The clan's income isn't unlimited, despite equal commissions. Cry, embarrassed, tries to come up with an excuse, but only remembers that he needs someone to recharge his relics. While the woman recharges his relics, a man tells Cry that a ghost in the shape of a wolf has appeared near the White Wolf's Nest and destroyed an entire caravan of level 3 escorts. Cry thinks his team can handle it, but the man insists the ghosts in the area are getting stronger. The woman adds that a powerful level 5 lancer, Rudolf Divu, has shown up there. Cry remembers that Rudolf is on the guild's wanted list and worries the mission might fail. He hopes Gilbert has recharged the Purgatory Blade. Meanwhile, the team is on its way to the vault. Tino reveals that she left a will before leaving, believing that since Cry sent her, the mission won't be easy, but she trusts he wouldn't send her to her death. However, the rest of the team, except Tino, believes Cry, has put together the most random group possible. Gilbert accepted the mission because Cry, the 1,000 tricks, somehow knew why he left his old group. Tino explains that Cry is a genius at deduction and knows the capital and its surroundings well. Ruta doubts this, but Greg thinks only a calculated mind could have handled the bar incident so smoothly. Taking advantage of this, Tino reassures the team that Cry planned everything for the mission to go smoothly, and would never send them to their deaths. Ironically, after sending them off, Cry decides to catch up with them to order them to abort the mission. Back with the team, they encounter a ghost wielding a sword and shield at a level far beyond human abilities. Meanwhile, Cry searches through endless clutter for relics. Eva scolds him for carrying a banned slime, but Cry is in a hurry. He grabs a broken, unstable relic and takes off, hoping this isn't his last flight. This brings an end to SO2.
Years ago, in the early days of Grieving Soul, the clan had only been in the capital of Zabrudia for a week when Gilbert was already furious. His prized sword, the Blade of the Testament, shattered like a twig. The other Envia's members joked that fighting a ghost Cyclops with a stick would be hard, while Tino Shade pointed out she never expected to find a Cyclops in a level 1 vault since those monsters belong in level 4. A drunken tavern customer overheard their conversation and called them rookies, claiming that a Cyclops would never appear in the Goblin Cave. And even if it had, there was no way they would have survived. But when 2 female members of the clan showed him the Cyclops, the adventurer was left speechless. Cry, reflecting on the scene, thought to himself that this was exactly why he didn't want to bring the creature along. Fast forward to today, Gilbert Bush slices a werewolf in half. Exhausted, Ruta complains that this kind of monster shouldn't be in a level 3 vault. Greg wonders why his Blade of Purgatory didn't ignite during the fight. Gilbert explains that it's out of mana and he can't recharge it himself. Ruta suggests retreating, and Greg adds that the situation is different from what they were told, especially since the group they came to rescue is probably already dead. After hearing everyone's concerns, Tino Shade, the leader, stands firm. She declares that the plan remains unchanged. Greg anxiously asks if survival isn't the top priority, but Tino asserts they didn't come this far just to gather monsters. She believes the ones they came to rescue are still alive and that the group is executing a flawless level 8 strategy. Even depleting the Blade of Purgatory's mana was all part of the Master's plan. The group pushes toward the White Wolf's Den, where humanoid wolves armed with bows and firearms await. This makes Greg realize the earlier wolves weren't just randomly strong, this entire pack is dangerous. Tino explains the den was originally created to house Silver Moon wolves. Gilbert charges ahead, eager to finish things, thinking once they deal with the wolves armed with bows and firearms, the rest will be easy. But Tino warns him not to get reckless. As the leader, her responsibility is to bring everyone back alive. She lays out a plan. She and Ruta, being the fastest, will lure the enemies, while the others will attack from behind. The firearms shouldn't be much trouble up close, and no one is to use another as a shield or sacrifice. Meanwhile, Cry silently prays that at least Tino survives, even if the rest are used as shields. Back in action, Tino acknowledges that their enemies are stronger, but the group has one major advantage: teamwork. The wolves don't understand cooperation while they do. As more armed werewolves appear, the team instinctively knows what to do. Tino observes that despite being an improvised group, their setup isn't bad. Gilbert may talk too much, but he's skilled. Greg, with his experience, works well with the others. Ruta, though not flashy, is excellent at finding enemies, allowing Tino to focus on the fight. As everything falls into place, Tino starts to believe her master is a true genius for planning so well. Meanwhile, in the heat of battle, Gilbert grows frustrated, feeling underestimated. This frustration takes him back to a time when he felt the same way, pushing his team hard only to leave them when they couldn't keep up. He realizes now they had been giving it their all, but he never stopped to consider their efforts. Now, fighting alongside others, Gilbert has matured, understanding the power of teamwork. After another victory, the team pushes deeper into the White Wolf's den, arriving at a larger chamber. Tino places her hand on the wall, sensing a presence not the people they came to rescue, but likely the den's boss. Greg wonders if they should retreat, but Tino reassures him that since they've come this far without a scratch, they can handle the boss. Greg still feels uneasy, but Tino teases him for being so cautious, saying that safe missions never lead to growth. Greg admitted that Tino wasn't entirely wrong. After all, once a hunter reaches level 4, they can make a living just by completing vaults below their level. Greg had always pulled back when he thought he couldn't win, a habit born from seeing so many friends die. Tino pointed out that although Greg had been a hunter for a long time, he joined this group to change that mindset. That's why the master put him here. Cry wouldn't have chosen someone he barely knew otherwise. Cry wanted to save everyone, making him like a god, Tino added. Everything Cry did was calculated, part of a flawless plan executed with perfect precision. Ruta, curious, wondered why she was chosen for the team. Tino didn't have an answer at first, but it quickly dawned on her Ruta was very beautiful. Before Ruta could respond, Tino cut off the small talk, calling the group to move on. Meanwhile, Cry, far from the god they imagined, was panicking. He had no idea where the group he sent was, and the relic he used to fly was more like a plane without brakes. Despite the rough ride, he crash-landed into the White Wolf's den completely by accident. Back with Tino's team, they faced the dungeon boss, a massive White Wolf. As soon as it moved, the group hesitated, clearly shaken by its power. They were torn between fighting and fleeing. Tino noticed the wolf wasn't wearing a helmet, revealing a weak spot. This was one of Cry's challenges, and she knew she had to pass it. She ordered Gilbert to block one of the wolf's strikes while she handled the rest. Gilbert braced himself as the beast's axe came down, holding it off for a brief moment. Greg struck the wolf's leg, but it quickly tossed him aside. Tino fearlessly charged in, impressing Ruta. Greg's sword shattered after taking a heavy blow from the axe, but just as the wolf prepared for another strike, Ruta rushed strike. She pushed him out of the way, and Tino seized the moment, scaling the wolf's axe and delivering the final blow. After the victory, Tino realized her injury was serious, but a healing potion quickly took care of it. Greg mourned his broken sword, but Gilbert reminded him to be grateful it wasn't his head. Greg thanked Ruta for saving him, but they all knew their mission wasn't over yet. Tino handed her sword to Greg, since he was now unarmed. Just then, a giant spear flew toward Tino, narrowly missing her. As they regained their composure, 4 more massive white wolves appeared, identical to the one they had just defeated. Even Tino felt the pressure now, realizing Cry had sent them into a much tougher challenge than expected. Faced with this overwhelming situation, she ordered everyone to flee down a narrow passage that would hinder the wolves' movement. But one of the wolves blocked their way. Greg suggested that Tino and Ruta, being quicker, should escape, while he and Gilbert sacrificed themselves. However, Tino insisted that the wolves' eyes were their greatest weapon, and they had a chance if they attacked as a team. The formation quickly came together, with Gilbert leading the charge. He blocked one wolf's attack, while Greg struck, but both were knocked back. Ruta hurled shurikens at another wolf's eyes, but it shut them just in time. Tino then used a technique she had developed under Cry's training and accessory that emitted a bright flash to blind one of the wolves. Gilbert took advantage of the moment, attacking the wolf. But even blinded, it threw him against the wall with immense force. Tino scolded herself for a poor strategy that put Gilbert in danger, and it seemed like the end was near. The team was surrounded, and they were out of options. At that moment, Cry crashed into the scene, accidentally taking out one of the wolves with his wild flight. The remaining wolves hesitated, shocked by the sudden destruction. One wolf attacked, but Cry used one of his accessories to block the blow and fired projectiles at another, bringing it down. Cry, with 17 security rings at his disposal, could do plenty in battle, but all he wanted was to go home. He didn't even care about the group he was supposed to rescue. To end things quickly, he tossed a pendant into the air and detonated it with one of his rings, creating a distraction for the group to escape. They all retreated, though Tino, injured, was slower than the others. Gilbert complained about the pace, but Ruta pointed out that the leader was setting the pace for the wounded. In reality, Cry was running as fast as he could, which just happened to match the speed of the injured Tino. Tino, believing Cry was being considerate, thought back to his kindness, a trait she had admired since she was young. Once they had put some distance between themselves and the wolves, they took a break. Cry used another relic to heal Tino's wounds. Gilbert, slightly irritated, commented that Cry relied on items for everything, but Cry didn't care. Despite his apparent cluelessness, the group still looked to Cry as their leader, even though he had no idea what to do next or how to get out of mess they were in. When Cry was a child, he always amazed his clanmates with the number of relics he controlled. Fascinated by these items, he saved up money to buy as many as he could. One day, Liz asked if Cry would use a relic suited for her, but Luke thought that was unfair since relics were expensive. He said the leader should use relics that benefit everyone. Tino joked that it finally paid off for Cry to be a hoarder because she would be rewarded for being their energy source. Liz, curious about a relic she held, asked about it. The owner explained it was a magic pouch capable of carrying more than it seemed. Tino thought it must have been expensive, but Cry said it was cheap because it could only store chocolate. Tino then realized how useless it was. Liz caught Cry's attention by showing off a bracelet she liked, but she was suddenly thrown to the ground twice before she could react. Embarrassed, Cry explained that it was a labyrinth ring that distorted a person's sense of space when worn. Meanwhile, Luxical was struggling. Cry then revealed that the bracelet was cursed. So later, Luke developed an intense desire to harm others. Fortunately, the dangerous relics were later used as training tools for Luke and Liz. Fast forward to the present, Cry's group was walking through the narrow corridors of the White Wolf's nest. The paths split continuously, making everything look the same, and there was no way to tell where they were. Despite this, Cry was somehow leading the group, even though Tino and Ruta were the rogues. Cry glanced back, trying to see if Tino would look at him. He worried that she might hate him for bringing her on this chaotic mission. When she did look back, Cry thought she might not want to talk to him anymore, causing him to panic. Even though she had always said she adored him, Cry felt he had made a huge mistake and figured he might need to apologize. Gilbert then asked if they were heading toward the exit, making Cry look back again, leading the whole group to do the same. Internally, Cry admitted they were supposed to be heading for the exit, but he didn't know the way. Tino then informed Gilbert that figuring out the leader's plan was part of the training, and revealed that they had never been heading toward the exit. Even Cry was surprised as Tino explained that she had checked the map and knew where the cave's pathways led. To get out, they would have to return to the boss chamber. At that moment, Cry realized he had messed up, especially since he hadn't even known the giant wolves were the bosses. Ruta then asked where they were headed, even though she knew it was part of the plan. But Cry stayed silent because he had no idea. He just wished the others wouldn't rely on him so much. Also, if you are enjoying our video, then don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment on how much you would rate this anime. They kept walking in silence until Cry took a turn. The others, however, noticed something in the opposite direction, and Tino reiterated that everything her master did was for a reason. With that said, everyone ran in the opposite direction. Confused, Cry went to check what was happening and found the soldiers they had come to rescue. The leader, Rudolph, thanked them, and Tino gave all the credit to her master, claiming he always knew what he was doing. Cry responded that it felt more like a coincidence, which puzzled Gilbert. Greg noted that it only made Cry seem more mysterious. Ruta mentioned she had given potions to the wounded, but they were tired and needed food. Cry then pulled out his magic pouch filled with chocolate and handed it to the soldiers. Gilbert asked how the pouch worked, but Cry said it was a secret. Greg admitted he thought there had been a mistake when he heard the missing soldiers were level 5, but Rudolph explained that they had been caught off guard by a strong enemy. It wasn't the wolves that had overpowered them, but a lone ghost with a skull-covered face, likely the embodiment of the wolves' resentment. After the humans exterminated the wolves, their hatred had accumulated in the vault and turned into this powerful entity. Rudolph believed his theory was correct, because he couldn't think of any other explanation. He and his men had been confident, but the ghost still existed. Kregist seemed to be on the same level as the legendary 1,000 Swords, the greatest swordsmen in the capital. These were warriors who had trained with the Sacred Blade, and one of them, a lunatic capable of defeating anyone with a wooden sword, was Luxical, Cry's childhood friend and member of Straggery. Cray thought the ghost was strong, but it seemed like an exaggeration to place it on the same level as the 1,000 Swords. In any case, Luke wasn't there and Tino wouldn't be able to defeat the ghost. Cry regretted not waiting for Ark. In the end, he suggested everyone leave before they encountered the creature. However, since Tino Shade was the mission leader, they had to respect her decision. Tino felt inferior to her master, but Cry assured her it was possible to succeed, and he would step in if she needed help. Cry was tired of leading and wanted to pass the responsibility to someone else. Tino accepted the challenge, agreeing that the best plan was to get out as quickly as possible. As they resumed their journey, Tino led the way to the exit. Rudolph wanted to stay behind to buy time, but Cry assured him everything would be fine as long as he was present. Leon, one of Rudolph's subordinates, insisted on staying because his superior had only accepted the mission for him. Suddenly, dozens of howls echoed through the cave. Cry calculated that he had 5 safety rings left. On the 6th try, he would die for real. He no longer had relics to use, and the shooting ring wouldn't stop the enemies. To make things worse, the citrus slime had disappeared, and his sword was lost. Cry wondered what he would do next. So meanwhile, a mysterious figure was moving through the misty corridors, teleporting elsewhere. A Cry's group sensed something serious was about to happen as Rudolph prepared for the coming danger. Cry stood in front of Tino and assessed the situation. He thought that if he used the Night Hiker and became a human missile, he would die once, but he could manage a surprise attack. Suddenly, 4 purple flames lit up the room, revealing the ghost everyone had talked about. The presence of the enemy was overwhelming, and everyone began trembling in fear. Behind the ghost, another figure appeared with a sword, and Tino started saying her final goodbyes to her master. Cry, however, was puzzled, wondering what Liz Smart was doing there. Without delay, Liz teleported to the ghost's flank and delivered a powerful kick, slamming it against the wall. She then returned Cry's lost sword and explained she had come running after hearing about their trip to the vault. Liz couldn't believe Cry worried so much, nor could she believe that Tino, his apprentice, couldn't even pick up trash properly. She grabbed Tino by the arms, and when Gilbert tried to speak, Liz kicked him in the chest, warning him she was in the middle of an apology. She asked Tino if her incompetence was due to poor training or a lack of ambition. Losing her temper, Liz cursed Tino, saying she would die in the gutter before causing problems for Cry's reputation. Tino, overwhelmed, knelt and begged for forgiveness. Cry stepped in, telling Liz that Tino had done great on the mission and that Liz herself was doing an excellent job. Liz, feeling proud after her master's praise, remarked that all Tino lacked was the will to die. At that moment, a giant wolf appeared, wielding a minigun and firing wildly. Liz calmly put on her mask and seemed to stop time, grabbing one of the bullets midair. After the shooting stopped, she dropped the bullet and scoffed, angry that the enemy had underestimated her with such a pathetic weapon. She criticized Tino for being scared of such a toy, ruining her reputation as a master. Liz then leaped at the wolf, kicking it in the head and dragging it to the ground with a powerful trail of energy that exploded on impact. In the chaos, she screamed that killing enemies in whatever way you liked was the most fun thing in the world. Now only the ghost and its sword remained. It attacked Liz with impressive speed, but she caught the blade with one hand, showing Tino that this was how it should be done. Such a move didn't even require much effort. She then kneed the ghost in the stomach and punched it to the ground. As Liz fought, she taught Tino the importance of attacking with everything you've got, even if it risked your life. Calling Tino every name imaginable, she made the poor girl cry. Cry observed that the ghost stood no chance against Liz and thought that it was the battles between Liz and Luke that had caused Stragri to grow so much. Liz Smart had become faster than anything, earning her the nickname Broken Shadow. Back in the capital after their victory, Gilbert announced that Cry could keep the Sword of Purgatory. However, Cry declined, saying he wanted to restart his journey from scratch. He dreamed of becoming strong enough to catch bullets like the Broken Shadow. Tino, Greg, and Ruta didn't believe him, but Cry just wanted to dream and be happy. Since he wanted to be as strong as Liz, Tino offered a piece of advice about Stragri's personalized masks. 6 years ago, Cry had messed up the order and requested masks without eye holes, but the members still thought they looked cool and officially adopted them. A year ago, a girl named Citrus Mart gave Cry a slime because it made her feel safer. Citri, an alchemist and member of Strange Grief, is known for her unusual behavior and is part of the Capital Science Institute. She's also the mind behind Sigri and was once the most renowned alchemist, earning the nickname Prodigy. Sometimes, Citri has Craig test out her strange creations. When it came to the slime, she warned Cry to be very careful. If he ever dropped it, it could endanger the entire capital. Now, Cry is anxiously searching all over his room for Citri's slime. After a long search, he sits down, thinking about where it could be. When he opened the capsule at the White Wolf's den, he found it empty. Originally, the slime was locked in a vault, one that Cry had never opened. The vault itself was a relic. Cry, leader of Stragri, concludes that the vault was empty all along. He laughs, lying on his bed, and notes how much of a prankster Citri is. However, he realizes that if he thinks about this too much, he might make himself sick. Meanwhile, at the White Wolf's den, a warrior defeats a ghost and questions her partner, wondering if this place wasn't supposed to be level 3. He explains that the ghost's level has suddenly risen over the past few weeks. She then points out that investigating missions for the Association is no simple task, while he agrees, saying that examining strange occurrences in treasure vaults is important for the kingdom. He also recalls that Miltrux is looking into this matter, suggesting something odd is happening. Back to Cray, he has barely slept, lost in thoughts about the slime. As he leaves his room, Eva Renfield approaches him, informing him that the Association needs a report on the White Wolf's den. Cray, as lazy as ever, says the leader of the expedition team was Tino, so Tino should do the report. However, the Vice Master of Arkbrave explains that Tino Shade is training with Liz. Having no choice, Cray asks if there's been any talk in the capital about this mission, and Eva promises to investigate further. At that moment, Miltru steps in, asking her to drop the subject and says he'll go check on Tino. Eva directs him to the training room on the second sub-level. With the boss gone, Renfield wonders if these strange events in treasure vaults are connected to the unrest among the capital's nobility. Cry continues to predict things without understanding them fully. The first time might have been luck, but after 2 or 3 times, it becomes obvious. She wonders about what's happening in the capital. Shortly after, Cry arrives at the sublevel where Sten Anger, leader of Obsidian Cross, is waiting. Sten quickly asks Cry to stop Broken Shadow as it's interrupting the training hall. Cry argues that fighting monsters is his expertise. Sten replies that both Ansem and Lucia are gone, so there's no one to stop Liz. He also wants to know how Lismart returned alone. Cry explains that she disarmed all the traps, reached the boss's room, and got bored, so she left. Sten, impressed, points out that the Night Palace is a level 8 vault and only someone bold would get bored there. Either way, he insists that if no one stops Liz, Tino could be in serious trouble. Cry, smiling, remarks that people don't get hurt so easily. But when they open the hall door, Liz is standing over an unconscious Tino. She's still threatening her, raising her leg to strike. Cry realizes he must stop the training to prevent any harm. Liz abruptly stops and explains to Cry that she was only training Tino, noting that Tino has great potential but is still too weak. Liz comments that she was stronger than Tino at that age. Cry, understanding Liz's passion, asks for the training to stop since Tino has reached her limit. Liz, in disbelief, wonders why he's stopping her as if it's a big deal. Suddenly, Tino grabs her ankle, saying she can still keep going. Cry, noticing Tino's mask, asks her about it. Liz, pleased with Tino's determination, resumes training. Cry steps out and informs the others that once Liz is in her training mode, she can't be stopped. Though Sven is concerned, he thinks it's beneficial for Tino to get stronger. Switching topics, he mentions that the North Route has been closed due to a rise in ghost sightings. The two have tea, and Sten adds that an investigation is underway. It seems they caught the Night Order off guard. Cry heard about adventurers encountering ghosts from White Wolf's den, and figures this is why Gark wants to meet him. Reflecting on this, Cry wishes Ark were there, as he's strong, smart, and trusted. Ark would handle things smoothly, but since he's unavailable, Cry decides to do what he can to buy time. Watching Cry's calm demeanor, Sven comments on how relaxed he is, leading Cry to think it's because the issue isn't his. At that moment, Cry has an idea he'll send Obsidian Cross to meet Gark, hoping they'll take over. He asks the team to inform the Adventurers Association manager that he won't be able to make it. Then, Cry quickly leaves, brushing off another responsibility. This prompts the second member of Obsidian Cross to question why their leader always avoids missions. Sven replies that the newcomer doesn't understand Cry's unique mindset. Cry's always been like this, but it's this very nature that makes him the force behind Straggery and Obsidian Cross. Sven even believes that in some ways, Cryandry is like a monster, not to be underestimated. Meanwhile, Gark is informed that there hasn't been any change in the energy near the White Wolf's nest, and his assistant notes that the mana levels are the same. Gark decides he'll meet with Cry tomorrow, confident he knows something. In a mysterious laboratory, Gart, an older man known as the Master of Magicians, remarks that he hadn't expected a high-level hunter to get involved in this situation. Other men, all in uniforms with the same symbol, approach him. One of them says it's only a matter of time before the Adventurers Association finds this place, but Gart insists that mill troops shouldn't be underestimated. Another man adds that regular hunters wouldn't understand the work the Master of Magicians, who is head of research for the capital's Akasha Tower Division, is doing here. Gart explains that the mechanism they're working on channels the immense power of energy lines, and that storing it is affecting the treasure vaults. If their experiment succeeds, it might even allow them to create treasure vaults at will. Some members of the group worry about the need to abandon the lab and start over, especially since Sophia, who oversees the defense system, is away on vacation at this crucial time. The Master assures them that he granted her leave and has contacted her with the Harmonic Stone, so Sophia Black will be back soon. He believes she would have already resolved this if she were here. Meanwhile, Cry is having a nightmare of the capital in flames and under attack. He wonders if Citri slime could be that dangerous, but quickly dismisses it since his dreams never come true. Suddenly, he's startled as Liz wakes up beside him, though it's not the first time she's snuck into his bed. The girl eagerly invites him to spend the day with her. When Cry heads downstairs, he encounters Gark, but Liz jumps in, saying Cry's busy today, and hints at the presence of Broken Shadow. The association manager demands the report she was supposed to complete on the Night Palace, but she snaps back that the association always piles work on Cry. To avoid spoiling her plans, she kicks the manager in the face, but he skillfully blocks and warns that even he has limits. As the two start brawling, Cry takes the chance to invite Kina for tea. While with the manager's assistant, he nearly reveals there's more going on, than just the White Wolf's Nest issue, but pretends he can't share more in case anyone overhears. Secretly, Cry is aware he might have released a dangerous slime in the capital, but can't admit it. Meanwhile, the hall becomes a battleground as Liz and Gark clash, with Liz taunting him for being out of shape. Gark finally loses his patience and channels an overwhelming energy from within. When Cry returns to the hall, he recalls how the branch manager of Zerbrudia was once called the War Demon, back when he was level 700. To prevent further destruction, Cry urges them to stop fighting. Eve arrives and is horrified at the mess in the hall. Cry and Liz then go out together, with Liz poking fun at Gark, saying he's become a weak old man. Gark insists no troops would believe it, but Liz doubts he could clear the Night Palace at his current level. Cry asks her if the dungeon boss was harder than the one in White Wolf's Nest. Liz casually mentions that defeating the Nest boss was so easy she didn't even notice it was a boss. Cry suddenly remembers that Sitri and the others are still at the Night Palace and realizes that if they don't return soon, the lost slime could create chaos. Seeing his concern, Liz asks what's wrong, and he asks her what she'd do if Zerbrudia were destroyed. Liz replies she would flee south with Cry, as she's never seen the sea, and it would be a perfect opportunity. With that, she leaves her bag with him and runs off to pin down a random civilian, accusing him of watching them suspiciously. Cry asks her to let the man go, and he bolts. Now safely away, the man wonders why Miltrux let him go and suspects that Cry knows more than he's letting on about the plan. If you enjoyed this, drop a comment and subscribe for more. When Sven arrives, he quickly realizes he's fallen for the trickster's usual antics. His boss has thrown him into a chaotic mess. The ghosts in the den are far stronger than they anticipated. Meanwhile, the protagonist and Liz Smart arrive in the most dangerous area of the capital, though a group watching them believes the real danger there is the notorious Shattered Shadow. Liz wants to know if Cry has any business in the area, and he simply replies yes without going into details. As they walk, Cry remembers Eva telling him that several people have disappeared in this area recently. Although disappearances aren't unusual here, he's concerned that Sitri's slime might have attacked someone nearby. He also recalls that a new ice cream shop opened here, so he figures they can accomplish two things at once. Liz asks again about their purpose, and Cry casually invites her to the ice cream shop. The ice cream man, who they had previously helped, sees them approaching through the shop window and panics. He fears they might have followed him and suspects that freeing him was a setup to lure him here. This new ice cream shop, however, is actually a hidden research center that Cry must not discover. The man quickly tries to close up, but Sophia Black returns from her break and steps inside. Liz knocks on the rolled-down door, demanding they let her and Cry in, but Cry calms her down, suggesting the shop is probably closed. Liz smells something sweet and insists she saw the shop open just moments ago. But Cry, not wanting trouble, suggests they leave. Inside, the man breathes a sigh of relief as he watches them walk away. After finishing their outing, Cry reflects that he didn't gain any leads on Sitri's slime. He asks Liz when Sitri will return from the Night Palace, but instead of answering directly, the Shattered Shadow offers her help, perhaps out of jealousy. Cry clarifies he needs someone knowledgeable about magical creatures, so Liz gives in, telling him Sitri took various types of equipment and might be a while. Later, Eva enters Cry's office and informs him that they've assembled a team to help investigate the White Wolf's den. With Ark unavailable, the Obsidian Cross has volunteered. Cry, uninterested in the details, tells Eva to handle it, but is informed that the team will include a relic research specialist for a thorough investigation. Hearing this, Cry realizes the case has become quite serious, so he decides to send a member of Footprints on the expedition, which Liz enthusiastically supports. Meanwhile, the Master of Magicians learns that Cry has found their hidden facility, catching them off guard as they thought the ice cream shop was a perfect cover. One member of the organization asks how they should respond, as they still don't understand what Cry truly wants. Sophie states that they must defend themselves, surprising everyone. Cryandri, being a level 8 adventurer, is highly skilled, but Sophie disagrees with retreating. She declares that the Tower of Akasha seeks the truth, and they won't back down. Despite knowing Cry is surrounded by powerful hunters, Sophie sees this as the perfect test for her new defense system. If they can eliminate Cry and his allies, the organization's secrets will remain safe. The Master of Magicians acknowledges that Cry has already detected them, meaning they may not escape unscathed. He gives Sophie full authority to act as she sees fit. Meanwhile, Tianov steps out of the shower and notices his injuries are gone, realizing Liz must have healed him while he was unconscious. He's relieved to have survived. After getting dressed, he heads to the Adventurers Association and is surprised by the number of carriages outside. Inside, a colleague tells him they're organizing a joint expedition with the Association to the White Wolf's Den, though originally Ark was supposed to lead it. With Ark unavailable, the Obsidian Cross has gone ahead, though they aren't as strong. Cry appears on the second floor, thinking all the activity must be for a party. Eva reminds him that they discussed this plan yesterday, and since Ark isn't available, she assembled the best group she could. Cry, realizing that putting the entire burden on Ark was ideal, now faces the challenge of sending enough people without overspending. He proposes sending only half the group, which terrifies the hunters since only Ark and his elite team could normally handle such a mission. At this point, Eva asks for silence so Cry can say a few words. Reluctantly, he steps forward, explaining that the vault was originally rated as a level 3 mission, so half the hunters should suffice. Still, the hunters are nervous, so the deputy master of Arkbrave asks if there will be a reward. Eva confirms there will be additional funding, which reassures Cry, but does little to quell his anxiety about not finding Sitri's slime yet. He begins to worry about what could be lurking in the White Wolf's den, as even the most experienced hunters are nervous. Yet, he feels compelled to assign the responsibility to as many people as possible to minimize his own involvement. Suddenly, Liz appears and boldly declares that she wouldn't even need half the team or might even go alone. A hunter remarks that Liz only speaks confidently because she's strong, to which she retorts that this attitude is exactly why they aren't leveling up. With a sense of authority, she steps up to the leader and asks to take on the mission, but he immediately refuses. He thinks it would be unfair to Tino, and with so many people already going, Liz's involvement could just cause chaos. With this in mind, he decides that everyone should participate in the investigation. Emma asks if Cray will lead the team to the vault, and this question nearly drives him mad. The hunters expect him to guide them into the den, so Cray quickly makes up an excuse, saying he has other matters and will meet them later. For now, leadership will stay with Obsidian Cross. He hopes to only show up when the situation is already under control. Back in the den, Obsidian Cross finds nothing unusual, except that the ghost Ez grows stronger as they go deeper. Meanwhile, the leader of Straggery endures Liz Smart's persistent request to join the mission. To pacify her, he pretends he needs her help elsewhere. He then instructs the team leader to be cautious of any unusual slime they might find in the White Wolf's den. At the same time, Master Magus learns the hunters are heading in force to the den. He then unveils the institution's newest creation, the Mana Agitation Device. Sophia explains that this defense system is equipped to face strange grief, even if only 3 members are present. The device lists Cryandry, known as the Thousand Tricks Smart, the Broken Shadow, and Sitri Smart as potential targets. With defenses ready against physical attacks, the Broken Shadow should be easy to handle. The Thousand Tricks may be the group's strategist, but he weakens without people to command. Finally, Sitri, Sophia's own arcane follower, could struggle against this system, as her lawful methods cannot overcome it. With that, Magus entrusts Sophia Black with the mission to defeat Strange Grief. Meanwhile, Sven receives orders to leave the den with Obsidian Cross and the other hunters, so he signals Henrik to blow the emergency whistle. Outside, some hunters grumble about being pulled out of the cave, saying they saw nothing unusual. They find it absurd to worry about the slime without solid proof. One hunter criticizes Sven for trusting Cry, a man who does nothing in the city, rather than evidence they could uncover themselves. Sven finally snaps, explaining they only used the whistle out of kindness. He adds that if Cry were here, he'd say there was no danger, while Liz and Luke would ignore the weaklings and even study their bodies afterward. Sven emphasizes that all members of Obsidian Cross are also healers, so abandoning people to their fate isn't their way. If the hunters want to continue without backup, they're welcome to do so. The furious hunter scoffs, saying it's absurd to fear slime since such a terrifying monster wouldn't be in the den. Sven responds, saying that long ago, Cry told everyone to see the cherry blossoms blooming in the den but advised them to bring weapons. The leader knew a vault would materialize in the prismatic garden phenomenon, leading Sven to believe that Cry has a unique foresight. The reason they spent a fortune on this resident stone was to gather intelligence. This is the value Cry places on information. Meanwhile, he must endure Liz in his ear all day, as she's eager to act, but Cry still intends to show up only when the mission nears completion. Just then, Sitri returns, feeling a powerful enemy must be stopped before it grows stronger. Later, Gark gears up to help with the expedition, despite Kina reminding him he's retired. But Gark insists he still wants to prove he can keep up with the younger hunters.
The story flashes back to when Sitri and Cry were kids, sitting together. Sitri told Cry she wanted to fill in where others were lacking. so everyone could enjoy being hunters. Admitting she wasn't very strong, Cry suggested she take on a role that suited her, maybe as an alchemist. Returning to the present, before heading to see Gark, Citri checks Cry's room and explains that her slime creation has impressive adaptability and evolution skills, but it's still a failed experiment. Cry wonders what this means, but Citri reassures him it's safe and won't harm them. Cry feels relieved for himself, but realizes that others might be at risk. Citri speculates that the slime may have escaped from its secure container, possibly through the bathroom drain, since it's drawn to water. This makes Cry uneasy, as he imagines a dangerous slime lurking in the pipes, but Citri tells him to leave it to her. The scene then shifts to the White Wolf's den, where the reinforcements Cry sent have arrived. One of them asks Sven how things are going. Sven says nothing has happened yet and inquires if anyone was sent to take command. The man replies that Cry assigned Sven to lead. Sven had expected Cry wouldn't show up, but he finds it odd that Liz isn't there either. The man explains that Cry took Liz and Tino for another task. Sven is relieved not to have Liz around since working with her would be impossible. Gathering everyone for a strategy meeting, Sven asks if anyone has experience fighting slimes, but no one raises their hand. They all consider slimes too weak to be real opponents. Someone jokes about having accidentally stomped one, and Sven asks if they have anything special to fight slimes. The group dismisses the need, believing slimes are weak against any weapon, even magic. However, Sven learns that Cry mentioned this was no ordinary slime, which frustrates him. Gain, a member, mocks everyone's concern over a slime, but Sven warns him that he'll likely be the first victim, which annoys Gain. One of the hunters, an alchemist named Talia Widman, reveals she worked with Citri on a slime-killing drug. She isn't sure if it'll work on this slime, though. The scene then moves to the Akashic Tower's hideout, where Noctis Cochlear talks to his disciple, who assures him their forces will annihilate the hunters they're up against. Noctis asks her for her first move, shifting the scene back to the White Wolf's den. Sven organizes his team, instructing them to use whistles to signal discoveries or emergencies and assigning some to rescue duty. As the mission begins, they find little unusual, only some wolf knights in the treasure vault. They start wondering if Cry was mistaken. Gain taunts them for their worry, claiming they'd be done already if they didn't follow their idiot leader. Sven brushes off his complaints, which irritates Gain. Gain wanders off alone, muttering about his distrust of Cry. In the forest, he spots a chained wolf knight and two suspicious figures nearby, who discuss injecting the creature with enchanted mana material to transform it. Gain confronts them and quickly defeats them, but one manages to inject the wolf knight with mana material. The knight transforms into a slime-like creature, breaking free. Realizing the danger, Gain blows his whistle. Hearing it at camp, Sven orders his team to recall everyone from the labyrinth. The hunters rush toward the source of the whistle, and Sven asks one of Gain's team members where he is. The teammate replies that Gain hasn't returned, which surprises Sven. Soon, they find Gain, but he's badly hurt, with one of his hands severed. Gain says that Thousand Tricks was right. There's a slime in the forest. They soon spot it, and Talia realizes she's never seen a slime like this before. Sven orders the mages to distract the giant creature, saying they need to stop it here. He fires an arrow, but it has no effect. The mages hit it with spells, but even after all their attacks, the slime is completely unharmed. Meanwhile, Henrik helps bandage Gain's wound. Gain tells Sven that some strange people injected the wolf knight with something weird, which transformed it into this monstrosity. Sven fires more arrows, but the slime seems unaffected. Sven can't believe both physical and magical attacks are useless. When a hunter asks what they should do, Sven replies that they can't leave this monster here. As the slime attacks, he orders everyone to dodge and hold it back since it moves slowly. He He pulls out a special drug Talia gave him earlier. Talia explains that the slime should self-destruct on contact with the drug. Sven distracts the slime and drops the drug in its path. When the slime steps on it, it explodes inside the creature, but it still doesn't fall. Talia is shocked the drug failed. Sven, convinced it's no ordinary slime, hears a hunter mention that Cry had warned them it was slime-like. Frustrated, Sven wonders how many times Cry will almost get them killed. Just then, Citri arrives, announcing that the slime is shielded by a magical barrier. Sven is surprised to see her. Citri explains that Cry sent her, anticipating trouble. She tells everyone that a strong magical force surrounds the slime, creating a barrier that deflects arrows and magic, a force even stronger than a level 8 treasure vault. As Citri analyzes the slime, it lunges at her, drawn by her high mana level. She pulls out a capsule and throws it at the slime, telling Sven to shoot it. He does, and the slime is destroyed. Sven asks what she threw, and she explains it was anti-mana material. Dark arrives asking if it's over, and Sven is surprised to see him ready for battle. Citri says Gark gave her a ride and hints that she has a theory about who's behind this. At the Akashic Tower hideout, Noctis is surprised. Citri took down the demonized creature so easily and realizes she must have understood the potion's effects. Meanwhile, Citri tells everyone that Noctis and his secret group Akashic Tower are behind this, working to manipulate treasure vaults. City officials at camp are skeptical, as Noctis was exiled from the capital. Citri replies that she didn't expect them to believe her, which is why she's been tracking Noctis alone. She adds that the monster they fought was just one result of his experiments. Talia wonders if Citri means there's a device underground, and Citri confirms, explaining that Noctis would need a lot of equipment to do this, likely with defenses prepared. They decide to interrogate the Mage Gain captured, expecting more monsters like the one they faced. The hunters feel reassured as long as Citri has more anti-mana material, but she admits she's out. However, she's determined to study the creature and find a solution, confident they'll succeed with everyone's help. She asks the hunters to lend their strength, admitting her own limits. After she leaves, Henrik notes her honesty about her weaknesses, and Sven calls her a powerful weakling, warning Henrik not to underestimate her clever ways of surviving. Elsewhere, Liz nags Cry to go to the White Wolf's den with her, but Cry, waiting for the right moment, keeps putting her off. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more Anime Recap updates.